We are talking about school uniforms this morning and experts in your national paper today calling for traditional school uniforms to be replaced with sports uniforms 5 days a week. We already heard from Ben, who gave us a call, 8 years old, to say, well, yes, we do a lot of running. It would be good to be wearing our sports uniform. And I mean, predictably, a couple of different responses to this. I'll read you a couple of text messages that have come through. This texter says, school uniform research. What's the end game? What's the difference between sports and normal? This is research looking for a problem, not solving one. Someone had too much money. But then, on the other side of that, this from Karen in Wangaratta, who says, I would love to see more comfortable, warm uniforms that support kids to be active rather than the stuffy tie and blazer. Great to see this topic on the agenda. So there you are, a few differing opinions there. The research, as I mentioned, has been undertaken by Tepi Mclaughlin, who is a University of Newcastle Public Health PhD candidate and who is with you now. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Sandra. How are we?
Very well, thank you. And I mean, this is actually a very polarising issue. I was mentioning it earlier this morning, and people have got a lot of thoughts about it.
Yeah, that's right. We've done quite a bit of survey research with people, trying to find out what people think about this. And we've spoken to students, parents, teachers, principals. And in general, although, there's quite a few people that are of different opinions, most students, most parents, most teachers are behind this. We know that from our survey research, about 2/3 of the students, and the older students even more so, and about 2/3 of the parents are supportive of a shift towards sports uniforms every day. And sports uniforms are those ones that are the polo shirts with the school logo, the school shorts, and maybe a school tracksuit for winter.
And what's the thinking behind this? What made you decide to do this research in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I had a little chuckle when you read out the text about, using research funding, and we're trying to find a problem. Well, what we're doing, the big problems that we're answering are around physical activity and around academic achievement and around equity. So I'll talk to physical activity first. We know that our kids are inactive, and it's becoming more and more apparent that kids are inactive. 9 in 10 teenagers are not getting enough physical activity, which is quite a shocking statistic. But it's because they're not necessarily supported enough in the environments that we live in and the programs and opportunities that we give them. So allowing them to go to school in a uniform that makes them play ready or activity ready is something that can help support them to be physically active. So that's one thing that we're looking into now with a big trial across New South Wales, is looking at whether switching to sports uniforms every day can make them more physically active. The other side of it is there'll be some parents listening in, I'm sure, that know how expensive the school uniforms can be. And we found from looking at the different places around Australia that the uniforms can cost anywhere between $300 and $500, which is quite shocking, really. And a lot of families are struggling to afford to make ends meet each week, and that kind of a saving can be really helpful. So this is about also levelling the playing field, making sure that everybody can attend school in uniform and it's nice and neat and tidy. It bears the school logo, and this is what the teachers, parents and students are telling us they want.
What about in terms of, I guess, gender diversity? Does that help as well?
Yeah, that's a really big one, Sandra. We've looked at this, and it's now policy across New South Wales and Victoria that all school students need to be offered the option to wear trousers or shorts. So if you're a girl, you traditionally might have worn a dress or a tunic to school. Now you need to have the option offered to you to wear shorts or trousers. But we don't think that goes far enough, because some of these shorts and trousers are still quite tailored and don't necessarily support people to be physically active. And we know that the physical activity issue is not only for their health, but it's also something that can help support them to do better in the classroom. Physical activity and being linked to different improvements in academic achievement, which that's what we're looking at. It's kind of tying all of these big issues together.
A message has come through here saying, if you want kids to exercise more, take their phones away from them. They'll be so busy jumping up and down. There's your exercise. So obviously tongue-in-cheek.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we're not saying that the school uniforms is the only solution to this as well. In fact, quite the opposite. We're wanting the school uniforms to support other things like cycling and walking to school, activities at recess, playing handball at lunchtime. And the students are telling us that they would feel more comfortable wearing a sports uniform and are more likely to be physically active. And I suppose one of the most important statistics is that the parents have told us, 9 in 10 parents have told us that they think it's important that their students can be physically active at school in their school uniform. So for parents, this is a really important issue. They want their kids to be active at school because they understand the benefits for their health, for their concentration, and for essentially their academic achievement at the end of the day.
On ABC Goulburn-Murray, you are hearing from Tepi Mclaughlin, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Newcastle, Public Health, PhD candidate. We're talking about school uniforms and the research that you have done into whether school children should be wearing their sports uniforms every day. How did that research take place and how many people were surveyed?
Yeah, so we decided to undertake this research because of the physical inactivity issue. We know that the kids aren't getting enough activity. In Australia, we're graded a D- for physical activity compared to other schools. Compared to other countries. So we're not doing too good on the physical activity front. And one thing that we found was that 3/4 of the schools still have a traditional school uniform policy, those black leather shoes, the buttoned-up shirts. And we know that there's been a culture change outside of schools towards different attires for different jobs. And of course, people still wear suits and formal attire for certain occasions. But what we're looking to do here is kind of flip it on its head and say it should be sports uniforms that they get used to wearing so that they can feel active. And when it comes to a formal occasion, then they can put on their formal attire, which is what some schools have been doing. They've been keeping stocks of formal attire in their school office, and whenever it comes to a formal occasion, they lend that out. So all of this research is coming from hundreds and hundreds of students, parents and teachers right across New South Wales, and also we've surveyed principals as well.
And you mentioned that some schools are already doing this?
Yeah, so some schools are already doing this, and some schools have joined our trial to look at the physical activity benefits where we're changing it. So 3/4 of schools have a traditional uniform. The other quarter have a mixture of different types and different policies, some of which have a policy that says they can wear their sports uniform every day. Of course, some schools don't have any uniform policies at all, and or have a uniform policy that allows students to wear what they would like to school. But what we're saying is allowing the students the choice to wear different sport, whether they want to wear their sports uniform to help them to be active, or whether they want to wear their traditional uniform. Give them the choice.
Well, it certainly sparked a lot of conversation and a lot of different opinion as well. Where to from here? What's next?
We're going to do this bigger trial and find out more definitively whether it can help improve their physical activity. And we're going to continue our physical activity research because we know how important it is, not only for the students' health, but also for their concentration in the classroom, to behave in the class, and also their academic achievement.
Well, we might catch up with you in the future then and find out how all of that goes. In the meantime, Matthew, really interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Cheers.
Yes, what do you reckon? Very interesting stuff. Finally, they did that when I was at school. Anyway, Tepi Mclaughlin, who is a PhD candidate, School of Medicine and Public Health at the University of Newcastle. Alice Walker, school uniforms, sports uniforms.
As in, what's my opinion of them? I'm for school uniforms because I like that there's less judgment of what kids are wearing.
Oh, there's still some. Yeah. But do we replace the normal school uniform with the sports uniform 5 days a week?
Depends what the uniform is. I mean, if you've got
well, it's going to be trackies and a polo shirt, pretty much.
Which was pretty much our uniform anyway, to be honest.
Was
so
it?
We had a few different choices of pants, and they were pretty. You could run in them. So I would run in my. I mean, I think it's choice, right? Pro-choice. You know, be able to wear the sports one if you want to. If you don't want to and you like wearing the skirt or whatever it is, wear the skirt. Wear what you want.
There you go. Wear what you want, says Alice Walker.
Wear what you want.
Keep your messages coming through as well.